Wynncraft is about to bully you into quitting. Wynncraft Rekindled World is the solution to 3 huge problems that have plagued the server for years. First, players have been too strong ever since the Spellbound update. Second, endgame players have been bored. We need more replayability and more loopable content. And the third one, mobs haven't been completely revamped ever since... Wait, 2014? What the? Well, Wynncraft Rekindled World is here to change that. But that begs the question, can you beat Wynncraft Rekindled World? Well, let's take a look into the changes. The monsters and enemies of Wynncraft have changed. The provinces are not as safe as you once thought. Plenty of mobs have been reworked, and you'll find them scattered around the provinces. Not all mobs, of course, but plenty of them have gotten their own crazy models, or have just been reworked thanks to a completely new mob system. Enemies are now much stronger. They will put up much more of a fight, and it's your task to protect the provinces from the threat. Not only regular monsters and enemies have been reworked, but also several bosses. We're talking quest bosses, boss altar bosses, as well as dungeon and raid bosses, of course. But we'll focus a bit more on that later. Here are just some of the new bosses. One important new boss to mention is the new Great Bridge boss. Accessing the Tromp's jungle is no longer difficult. It is super difficult. You must now fight a one-time boss to be able to cross the bridge, and it can be a bit tricky with all its new cool spells and attacks. There's even some super rare mobs, like this fake player, so be careful. But monsters and bosses aren't the only thing. Wynncraft now has a much more immersive fauna. The landscapes come alive with much improved animals, not only on the farms, but also out in the wild. Everything from birds, starfish, butterflies, and so much more. Rekindled World also gives the world itself a new, beautiful yet daunting look. Almost the entirety of the Wynn province has seen major or minor changes. Mount Wynn is now one of the most gorgeous areas in the game, a large volcano yet so full with life, even though danger lurks all around it. The roots of corruption and its portal has also sprung up more scary corruption. The portal, now a menacing, dangerous place. Ternaves is now a sprawling town full of trade, winemaking, and horses. Just make sure you don't drink and ride. Breminglar is also a much more colorful tribal village with a really welcoming feel. Let's also not forget about Saints Row. The graveyard and the cathedral have undergone a massive improvement. But that's not all. The entire province now feels much more rustic, beautiful, and fresh. Nearly every bridge, pathway, and ruin have been rebuilt. There's also been some build changes to profession locations. The void ore in the cave under the Sky Castle is now gone. Corcus has also received some rebuilds, and don't miss these awesome lighthouses. But the world itself isn't alone in getting massive upgrades. Plenty of the interfaces in the game have also been redrawn from scratch to decrease the clutter and create a much more immersive experience. But hold on, there's also been an improvement made to the content book tracker, creating this floating waypoint leading you to your marked content. Sadly, this update does not bring any new quests, but that's completely fine. We do get plenty of reworks. The mercenary has been revamped with a whole new barrack section of the quest, and the Almouge Bank is no longer quest locked. Rekindled World is also taking on a whole new perspective when it comes to the challenges facing the player. Firstly, there's world events. Think of them as challenges all across the world. You fight waves of enemies, a final boss, and then score a reward. World events can be found in every province and around most level ranges. You can find a full list of them in your content book, but it's not that easy. World events are on a timer. They're not always available, but they appear every once in a while, some more often than others. You'll see in the content book whenever one is available. Then there's a countdown to let you get there before it starts. World events scale with your level, so if you are a higher level than the level of the world event, the enemies will match your strength. And if you're in a party, the event scales to the highest level player in that party. If you die during the world event, you'll lose it. However, if you have a party, if the party wins, you will win as well, even if you died. As for rewards, you get XP as well as a chest with plenty of good loot. World events are now the main way to obtain dungeon keys and runes, but they're equally awesome for some high tier ingredients. But that's not all. The major world event, Prelude to Annihilation, is the craziest one. Once a week, yeah, it's that rare, players will be alerted to get ready for the event. Then grab your best gear and give it your best shot. Annihilation starts at level 30, so you can try it with your lower level classes, but it's not gonna make it any easier. There's also a super rare chance to be rewarded one of 5 new mythics exclusive to this world event. Next up, we've got raids, and just like loot runs, raids have been reworked to be much more replayable, rewarding, and just more of a challenge. From level 65 and up, you must sign up to the new raid syndicate in the Silver Bull headquarters to raid. Each raid will give you XP towards your raid level, which will unlock new perks and more rewards from the raids. Speaking of rewards, raids, just like loot runs, now have a unique reward chest, which refreshes weekly, and it's now the main way to obtain tomes and the new aspects, but we'll talk about those a little bit later. Raiding is also made much more simple with a new party finder system integrated into the raid keeper. Just bring a tome and click ready up and it will find you others who are ready too. Oh, and one more thing, raids scale to your personal level just for you, meaning you can play with other players no matter their level, and the mobs will be different difficulties for each of you. And you might have noticed in the raid keeper there's something new. These are gambits, and you unlock them with raiding levels. Gambits are optional debuffs. Yeah, they make your raid runs harder, but for a chance at a better reward. Raids themselves have also been reworked quite a bit. Raid buff rooms are now much more cooler. Several challenge rooms have been changed and moved around. There's also the addition of improved information rooms, but most importantly are the new bosses and the boss fights. They have all been completely remade, but don't stare in awe for too long because they will destroy you. Loot runs have also seen some changes and additions. Most importantly, there's now a new loot run camp in the Canyon of the Lost. There's also random loot run events, a super rare chance for an event to trigger during your loot run, interrupting your run either in a good way or a bad way. Loot runs have also gotten a couple of new missions added as well. Dungeons have also undergone some changes, mainly decrepit sewers, infested pit, ice barrows, undergrowth ruins, and the Eldritch Outlook. They have completely new boss fights, but all dungeons have received some changes. They no longer require quest completion to be attempted, and to help you fight against the stronger enemies, you are also granted an extra life in both the dungeon and in the boss room. The enemies and challenges of Wynncraft are getting more difficult, but to allow the players to still put up a fight, they have gotten an increased arsenal. Thanks to raids, players' next tool to defeat their enemies are aspects. They greatly enhance numerous class abilities, and there's over 50 of them. Aspects can be found in the ability tree, and you unlock more slots as you level up. Aspects are also account-wide, so you can swap them easily, even use them on completely new classes. Aspects Aspects come in different rarities, such as Legendary, Fabled, and Mythic. Legendaries focus mainly on enhancing general spells and abilities, but they're not super strong. Fables focus more on specific abilities, and they're great if you want to improve a specific part of your build. Mythics are however pretty crazy. There's 15 of them, one to greatly enhance a specific archetype playstyle. But that's not all. Each of them can be upgraded, which is possible by obtaining the same aspect multiple times. They will probably play a great part in the future endgame, but it's gonna take you a couple hundred hours to max them out. There's also been some changes to the ability trees. Accelerate makes it so after you leave Corrupted, you get healed depending on the amount of Corrupted you have, a lifesaver when your corruption bar is nearly full. With Bloodlust, when you leave Corrupted, you also deal damage to all mobs around you. The more corrupted you are, the more damage you deal. When using the ability Blood Pact to cast spells using your health instead of your mana, your spells also get a 15% damage boost. With Chilling Snare, when having placed a trap, the explosion will cause a lingering sigil on the ground, slowing down and damaging enemies for 5 seconds. Homing shots have also been vastly improved to home in on enemies way better. Freezing Sigil makes it so Ice Snakes leaves a lingering sigil on the ground, slowing down and damaging enemies over time. But it also freezes you and your allies, so you can't be pushed around by mobs. Sunflare makes it so once you've healed 250% of your health, you will gradually heal and restore mana to yourself and your allies, while all of your Ophanim orbs will continue to attack at their max speed without your input. Shadow Siphon lowers your Vanish cooldown after successful backstab. This can also be stacked with several successful backstabs to completely reset the Vanish cooldown. When using Frog Dance, the Hall spell will no longer require a totem. And lastly, Seeking Totem moves way faster. It might even run past you. Let's not forget about tomes. The tome menu as well as tomes in general have been entirely revamped. For starters, tomes no longer have their main stats. Now, the purpose of tomes is to boost your regular item IDs. Starting slowly, tome slots no longer have intricate requirements. Instead, they now only require a certain combat level. And they are no longer soulbound to a class, just untradeable. They have also been recategorized. Weapon tomes now give different damage IDs, and armor tomes give health and elemental defenses. XP tomes have been revamped, giving IDs such as walk speed and mana, but loot run and guild tomes are staying roughly the same. There's also a whole new system on the horizon. The main stats from tomes are now moved elsewhere, and you'll unlock them as you progress through the game. They're still in the works, however, so there's still more to learn. With new and stronger enemies and challenges facing the player, there's one light at the end of the tunnel. Soul points are now gone. Unlike before, it does not matter how many times you die. You will only ever risk dropping ingredients and profession materials, unless you are in hunted or in hardcore mode. But there's a new death screen, so it takes a couple of seconds after dying before you can resume playing. And with the removal of soul points, teleport scrolls have also been reworked. There's now a limited amount of charges to use per teleport scroll before they have to recharge. Since this change makes having multiple scrolls of the same type redundant, the cost of scrolls have also been increased accordingly. Repair scrap was also removed, and from now on you will be able to repair your crafted items with emeralds instead of scrap, which is a huge quality of life improvement, as now you have much more space in your bank. Another small but fun addition is this Ragni ball. You can kick it around, and there seems to be a small kid over in Almsort that wants one. Could you somehow get it over there? Finally, there's an AFK system. Now, after a few seconds of not moving, the game will pause, and after being AFK for a bit longer, you will be put in a state similar to being in the queue. And that's it. Subscribes!